Hey there. Today we'll be building a full stack restaurant menu builder. Our service will allow restaurants to build fully customizable menus that they can deploy to their customers. We will not only have a drag and droppable menu builder, we will also allow them to fully customize their menu style by letting them select templates, fonts, and menu colors. During this process, they can view exactly how their menu will look with a mobile menu preview. Once the menu is to their liking, they can then hit publish and their menu will deploy to their own custom URL. I'm a professional full-stack software engineer and our project will follow industry best practices. For the front end, we'll be using Nextjs, Shadcn UI, and Tailwind CSS, which are great for quickly building modern UIs. They will also make it easy to create awesome features such as light and dark mode. For the back end, we'll be using Convex Dev, which will allow us to create server-side functions and store our customer data all using TypeScript. We also manage user authentication using Clerk, which I believe is the easiest way to handle authentication. This isn't a sponsored video, I just believe they are some of the best tools for building web apps. Throughout this project, I'll not only teach you how to use these technologies, but also how to best structure your projects. I recommend following along, and the code for this project can be found in the description below. With that, let's start coding. I'm starting with a blank project in VS Code. Let's go to the Shadcn UI documentation to create the project. So let's go to Docs, Installation, Next.js, and let's follow this guide. So I'm gonna copy this, paste that into the terminal, and we're gonna do no for source directory, yes for app router, no for import alias. Wait for this to load. Now let's cd into our app. And continue this guide. So let's copy this. This will add our Shadcn UI. And we're gonna choose New York theme and then neutral. And yes for CSS variables. Now let's keep following this guide. So we'll skip the font. And we're gonna use this command to add our components. So let's paste that in. And remove button. And, oh, we have an issue here. Oh, we can't have the dot, it's just add. And then A for all. And these components will take a bit to install. But they're just gonna make it way easier to create our components for the project, and they provide a lot of default customization. We're not actually going to use all these components easier, it's just easier to install them all at once. Cool, so those installed. And we can see we have a components folder and an app folder now. And I'm just going to get rid of all this boilerplate code. So delete all that. And see if we can load a Shadcn UI component. And that's npm run dev. And go to localhost 3000. And cool, so that worked. Now let's work on building our folder structure. So let's go back into VS Code. And I'm gonna go to app, and here I'm gonna make the first folder. And this is gonna have brackets around core. This just means it's a hidden folder, so it won't be in the URL path. And in here we're gonna have some more folders. So this one's gonna be menu content. And this one's gonna be, wait, another folder, menu style. And these are gonna be our routes. So let's create our pages for them. I use RAFCE. And this will say menu content. And let's make another page here. And this will be our menu style. So now we can go to those routes. Menu icon. And there we see we have that page showing up. And we can also see menu style. Now we're going to work on building our nav bar. So I'll just give a quick demo of what it is. So at 301 I have it. So it's going to look like this. And yeah, that's what we're going to build now. So let's go to our components folder. And we're going to create a new folder called core inside of it. And here we're going to create the nav bar. So I'll do RAFCE to create the component. And then just so we can see it, I'll display it in menu style. And I gotta go to menu style. Cool, so the nav bar is showing up. Now we just have to create it. So I'll start off by styling this div. And it's gonna be flex, justify between, item center, and then it's gonna have a shadow of medium and a height of 12. And then the PX is gonna be 6, and then the background is gonna be of card. And we can already see how the nav bar is going to look. Now let's go in here. And we're going to have a button. It's going to be a size small. And the variant is going to be ghost. Cool. And there's no text in it, so we don't see it yet. And inside, so we're going to use an icon. So it's going to be hamburger menu icon from Radix UI. And the class name is going to be height 5, width 5. Cool. So we got that showing up. And below that, we're going to have a div of class name flex, item center, gap 4, and inside of this we're going to have another button. So this is going to be the other side of the nav bar. And this is going to say view menu. And we'll set a size for it to small. And we can see that there. We'll add style to it later, so it looks like this blue one. And now we're gonna have a temporary profile icon. So this is gonna be temporary profile. And then finally, we're gonna have a button that's gonna be a temporary color change. So this will be like light and dark mode. Let's call it theme change. That makes more sense. And cool, so we got that showing up. We're gonna edit the style later, so it looks like this. And then also add in our clerk provider. Now let's work on adding our layout file. So this can show up on both pages. So let's go new file, and then layout.tsx. And I'll create that component. And this is going to take props of children. And they're going to be of type children of React node. And I'll render that in here. And we're gonna have our nav bar display in here, so it shows up on both pages. The way the layout works is the pages are rendered as the children. So anything in here will show up on both pages. And for the style, it's gonna be flex call, width screen, height screen. And we see 2 right here because this page also has it here. So let's remove that. And there we go. Now if we go to menu content, we'll see menu content show up. Now let's go back into VS Code and work on building the rest of the layout. So below navbar, we're gonna have a div, and this is gonna surround the children. And in here, we're gonna have a comment, and this is where the left nav's gonna go. And then we're gonna style this div, the one above here. So it's gonna be class name flex, auto flex, width full, height full, and this should position the children. And let's have a div around the children because the left nav will have one. So this is gonna be flex, auto, and nothing changed here, but now we have it set up so we can create our left nav. Now we can work on creating that component. So let's go to core, new file, leftnav.tsx, and we're gonna RAFCE to create our component. And now we can define it where this comment is in our layout. Cool, so we see it showing up there. And now let's go to the component and let's start styling the div with flex call, width 72, shadow large, and then padding of 4 and background of card. Cool, so we see it's showing up. Now let's work on the rest of it. So we're gonna have links inside of it. And make sure it's imported from next link. And this is just gonna go to our menu content URL. And inside of the link, we're gonna display a button. So if you click on this button, it goes to this menu URL. So menu content. And let's style this button with a width full, font semi-bold, and the variant is going to be outlined. Cool, so we see it showing up. We're going to change the style later with the theme. And let's create another link now. And this is going to be for the menu style. So let's write that in here. And we're going to create the same button inside just for the menu style. So menu style. And class name, width full, font semi-bold, and then the variant's also going to be outlined. Cool. And we need to create some padding in between these two. So that we can fix by adding a gap of 2. And now we got both of these buttons working. You can see how it goes to different URLs when you click on them. Just like how it does for these. Cool. Now let's work on adding the theme. So let's go to Shadcn UI, themes, and we can customize it here. So we're gonna do New York, blue, and then a radius of 1.0. And we can see how this looks in light and dark mode. And we'll be using both of those. So let's copy this theme And then we'll go to our global.css and replace all of this with that new theme. Leave the Tailwind base and all that stuff at top though. And now we can see the themes updated to the one we want to use. Now let's work on adding light and dark mode. So we can see what that's going to look like right here. Cool. So we're going to add that to our app now. And let's go to the Shadcn UI documentation. Then the dark mode, Nextjs, and we have to install this. So I'll open a new terminal, cd into the app, and install it. Cool, so that worked. And let's create this themed provider component. So under components, let's make a new folder and we'll call this providers. And in here, we're just gonna, accidentally pasted the component. So I'll delete this. And it's gonna be theme provider.tsx. Then I'll paste in the component. And let's continue this guide. So we have to add the theme provider to our layout. So on this inner layout under core, we'll add it here. So I'll wrap this. Actually, let's add it to this outer one. Yeah, it makes more sense here. So we'll import our component and make sure it wraps the children. Cool. And yeah, we'll copy this. This is what I'll do. And this is the code for it to create the switcher. And in our nav bar, this is where we're gonna hold the component to switch the themes. And we actually don't want all the code, we just want what's in the return. So we'll remove our temp theme changer, make a div, and then paste in that code. So now I have to import all these components from Shadcn UI. Import this one, and then we're going to import these from Radix UI icons. Import this. And we also have to do a use theme so we can set the theme. So it's just this line right here. And I'll add this to the top of the component. And let's make sure we import this from Next Themes. Cool, so that component's done. Now we can view it. And it looks like we didn't import Next Themes. I think, we need a use client here. Oh, we didn't save this file. And we also need a use client. And cool, now we can see our theme changing component. And it works in dark mode now. Now let's work on building our menu styler. So that's gonna look like this, where we can select the colors, fonts, and templates for the menu. And we have to do a little work before we do that. So yeah, we're gonna build in menu style. So let's go into our menu style component. And we're gonna style this with class name, height full, width full, flex, justify, center, item center, and then gap 2. Or gap 24 actually. And now let's go into core, create a new folder for our menu style components. And this, we're going to make one called menu style.tsx. And let's display that component here. And it looks like we have an issue. They're all saved. Maximum call stack error. Oh, it's because we named the component the same as this component right here. So we'll just call this menu style page. That'll fix the error. And import that from menu style. There we go. Now we see it's showing up in the center of the page. Cool. And now let's go to the menu style component. And this is going to be a card. And it's going to be a class name. Height. 650 pixels. Width. 450 pixels. And in here, we're going to have a div. And this is going to be class name flex. Justify between. And below that, now we can see the outline for the component. And now we can continue working on what's inside the component. So under this div, let's create a card header. And this is going to be, let's have a card title. And we can call this mobile. Mobile styler. And the card description can be change your menu style here. Cool. And below this, let's have a div. And inside of that, we're going to have a button of size small. And this can say publish. And let's style this with class name, margin right 10, margin top 6. And there we go. We got the top part of the menu. And we're just going to work on the components for now, not any of the functionality. So below this div, we're going to have a card content. And this is going to be class name space y2. And we're going to have a div inside of it. That's going to be class name space y1. And in here, we're going to have a label that's going to say, make sure we import this from, where's components UI label? There we go. And this is going to be an HTML4 add. This can say the first component should be name, and the URL, and this can be the URL slug. Cool. And there we go, we got the label there. And below this, we actually want the input for the URL slug. So it's going to be ID, name, value. Yeah, for now we'll just have a placeholder because we don't actually want the functionality yet. We'll add the functionality later once we build our backend. And this can say enter your menu or your lowercase menu URL slug. And this can change the URL slug actually. Cool, so that component's built there. And now let's work on building the other one. So let's fix that the capital URL. And now we can work on building the component below that. So this is going to be div class name space y1, and in here we're going to have a label and it's going to be of template. And we can change this to menu template. So this is going to be a select field. And inside of it, let's have a select trigger. Of class name with full. And we have to make sure this is imported from Shadcn UI. And it'll have a select value placeholder select a template's good. Cool. So now we got that showing up. And below this, let's actually have our select content. So this will be select group. And select label of templates. And below this, we'll have our actual templates. So select item, value, modern, and we can write modern here. Make sure we import this. Cool, that's imported now. And we also have a template of type centered. And we're only going to build 2 templates for this tutorial. So, it looks like there's an issue of, I think it's because we imported this from RaidX by accident. So select content should also be imported from at components. And cool, so now we got the drop down working. And now let's continue working on this. So below this div, let's create another div. And this is going to be class name. That was an accident. So class name of space y1. And in here, we're going to have another label. And this is going to be our font picker. So we're going to do something similar, but for the font. So we'll have a select component with the select trigger. And it looks like Copilot this could complete most of it. You could also copy and paste the one from above. but I'll change these fonts to Arial, and its value will be Arial sans serif. And the second one's gonna be Verdana sans serif. Cool. And we'll have another one of type Helvetica sans serif. And we'll have another one of type Times New Roman and just serif. Cool, so that's enough fonts. And now we can see here, we can select a font for our style. And now we're going to take a break from building this component and add Zustand, which will be used for our state management. So we'll go to Zustand docs, and we'll follow this guide to install it. So I'll cd into the app, and then install. And this gives a good description of how to use it, but we're going to manage all of our internal state with it. So under our app, let's create a new folder, and this is going to be called store, and we'll have a store.ts file. And in here, let's import crate from Zustand and export an interface for our Zustand store. And this is going to be a menu entry with the ID of type number, a type of type string, a name of type string, and then a description of type string, a price of string, and that's everything for a menu entry. And we'll also export interface for our menu store, or our menu style, I mean. And this is going to have a URL slug of type string, a menu template of type string, a font of type string, a background color of type string, a text color of type string, and then a highlight color of type string. And below this, we'll export an interface for overall store, and it's going to have a menu style of type menu style. So let's fix that. And it's going to have a set menu style, and it's going to be a function that takes a key of store menu style, and it's going to have a set all menu style, which just takes a whole new menu style. Then we're also going to have menu entries, which is going to be a list of menu entries, and then a set menu entries, which allows us to reset the menu entries. And update menu entry. And this one's this is gonna be just menu entry, and it's gonna take an ID and a new entry to put for that ID. And it's also gonna return void, and then delete menu entry, and then add menu entry. And there's a lot of things we want to do when we're editing our content menus. That's why we have so many of these different functions for it. So now let's actually build the menu store. So let's comment out all of these so we can just build it one at a time. And it's going to be export const use global store. And we'll start off by building the menu style. And we're just going to have URL slug of, we just use Copilot suggestion there because it worked. And I'll close this off. Cool, so that's working. And yeah, we'll actually set the background color to FFFFFF. And we'll set this one the same. And we'll set the highlight color also to the same. Okay, now we can go to work on the next one because that's working. So let's uncomment out this line for set menu style. And we're going to put that right here. And it's going to take a key and a value and use those to update entries in the menu style. So it's going to return our state with the edited value. And I think I'm missing a bracket. Okay. What is missing here? There we go. Just an extra bracket I didn't catch. Okay, now we can go on to set all menu style. And this one's going to be a little more straightforward. So this is going to take in a new menu style. And then set the state to that new one. So just like that. Then for the menu entries, we're just going to set this to nothing in the beginning. And then set menu entries. Yeah, we'll just do this. So let's uncomment this line. Cool. That gets rid of the type error. And now let's add this update menu entry function. So it'll be an ID and entry. And then we're going to set the state. An arrow function. There we go. And this one's a little more complex, so we need to index. But it looks like Copilot did a good job. Update menu entry. What was the issue I got here? Oh, it looks like a typo up here. I spelled update wrong. There we go. So that resolved this issue. And now let's add delete menu entry. And this is just going to take an ID. And set state. It looks like Copilot's doing a really good job for these Zustand functions. So missing comma there. And it looks like we got a type error. That's just because we haven't uncommented delete entry yet. This will get rid of it. And finally, let's add the add menu entry. So this won't take anything. It'll just add a new menu entry to the list. And this will also be an arrow function. And we'll set the state. And first we have to define the new entry we want to add. And that's going to be a type menu entry. And yeah, it looks like we want to do some editing to this though. So we'll just add this for now, but we might make some modifications. And I think that's everything we want to add. I have an issue here with the brackets. There we go, that fixed it. And let's add a function down here to set a better ID than the length. So this function is going to be used to create a unique ID. And we can just return math.random. And we don't want a string, so we want it to be a number. So math.floor, math random times a big number. And that should create a unique ID for that. Cool. And let's just change this type to item because we need to have a type for everything. The name can be new item. And the description can just be new description. And the price can be 0. Cool. So we got our Zustand store done. And now let's work on adding our color picker. So let's go back to the UI. And we're going to build this component now, which allows you to select a color for the background, text color, and highlight color. And to do that, we're going to use this React color package. So go to this link and then npmi UIW React color. And we'll go to our app and install that package. Then we'll create the color picker component. So const. So this actually be use client. And then const sketch picker. This is actually just going to be sketch. And this will be dynamic. And we have to import this a weird way. So I'm just going to paste that in. And you can add this to your own code. And we just have to set server-side rendering to false in it. And we're going to have an interface for our color picker. And it's going to take a color, which is a string. It actually first needs a color target, which is a string. And then is color picker open, which is going to be a Boolean. Then set is color picker open, which can set that Boolean. A menu style, and we're just going to use type any. And set menu style. And this can be any too. This is going to be our function we have in our Zustand store. And then const color picker equals. And we have to destruct all these props. So I'll add those in. Okay, now menu style. And then set menu style. And cool, we don't need that set import up there. I think we got them all. And they're type color picker props. And so in here, we're going to return our color picker. So it's going to be a div. And then we're going to use is color picker open. And then we're only going to render this if the color picker open boolean is set to true. So in here we have a div, and it'll be class name, absolute, inset 0, flex, item center, and then justify center. Then Z5, 50 I mean. And then pointer, events, none. Cool. And then in here we'll have another div with class name, BG white, padding 2, rounded small, shadow large, and then pointer, events, auto, and flex call, gap 2. Cool. And let's close that bracket off. Then in here, we're going to display our sketch component. And this is just going to be a singular one. And it's going to be color of color target equals background. So this is setting if the color target is the background color, then I have an error here. Okay, then we'll set to menu style dot background color. And then if the color target equals text color, then we'll set to menu style dot text color. And then if menu style, then otherwise this menu style highlight color. We don't need an if for that. Cool, so that's a little complex, but it sets the colors properly. And then on change, we'll pass that in. And this will just give you that color when someone highlights over it. And in here, we're going to do if color target equals background color. Then we'll set the menu style to the background color. And we can get that color by using color hex, and we'll just do the same for each style. Cool, fix these brackets. Okay, it looks like we have an issue. No. I think I'm just missing a bracket here. It sometimes gets confusing when there's so many. Which bracket is it? Okay, it was just a closing one there. Cool. So then below this, we're going to use a button. And then on click, it's just going to set the color picker open. And it's just going to actually set to false. So we'll use set color is open to false. And there we go. We got our color picker done. Cool. Let's see this. So it's not showing up yet because we haven't added it. But let's go back in now and add it. So let's go to menu style. And in here, we're going to actually have a use client component. And Then we'll use our global store, which is Zustand, to get our menu style, because we'll need this for the color picker. And we also need set menu style from our global store, which is also Zustand. And then let's create is color picker open boolean, and we'll use state for this. And then we should create a color target variable, and that can just default to nothing for now. And then below here is where we're going to add the color picker component. So just down here we can add it, because we're going to position it differently. So we're going to use a div, and then class name, space y1, and then class name flex, justify between, padding top 2, and this is going to be a label, and the Copilot works, so we'll just add a button, and this will just be a regular HTML button, not a Shadcn UI one. And when it's clicked, we're gonna set color picker to open. So color target background color, and set as color picker open true. And here we don't actually need this closing tag, because we're just gonna make a square. So it's going to be class name, height 6, or height 8, width 8, rounded small, border black, and then border 2. And there we go. And to set the color, we're going to use style, and then background color, menu style, background color. So this button will allow us to edit the background color once we add the color picker. So down here below the card content is where we'll add the color picker. So why isn't this importing? I think we never saved the file, or we never exported the color picker. Save that. Now it should be right there. And now we gotta make sure we pass in the right props. So it's gonna be color target of color target is color picker open, and that's gonna be the is color picker open boolean. And then set is color picker open to set is color picker open. Then menu style of menu style. And then finally set menu style. There we go. Cool, so now let's try this again. And there we go. Now we can see we changed the color when we open this color picker. And it also looks good in dark mode. So click on that. Sweet. Now let's go back into VS Code to add the text and highlight colors. So this is going to be very similar to that other block. It's going to be class name space y1. And then in here is going to be div class name flex justify between, and then padding top 2, and then label HTML4 and this will be the text color. And this will do the same as the other one, just for the text color. And Copilot completed that. Cool. And now let's just copy and paste this for one more, which will be the highlight color. So I'll change this to highlight. And also change this to highlight color. And also set the menu style right here to highlight color. Cool. So let's reload this page. And now we see we can set all the colors. So we can set this one to red. We can set this one to blue. And we can set this one to brown. And it also looks good in light mode. There we go. And now let's work on building out the rest of this component. So let's add a button to handle our publish. And in here, for now, we're just going to do console.log our menu style. And for the on click for the publish button, we'll just call this handle publish method. There we go. And I'll inspect this, hit publish, and we can see now that how our store is storing the data from Zustand. And I'm also going to remove this placeholder right here. And instead it's going to be value from menu style dot URL slug. And on the on change, take the event and set the menu style for URL slug to the event target value. And we'll also do something similar for the select. We'll set the value to the menu style dot, this will be our menu template. And for the on value change, we'll take the value and then set the menu style for the value menu template to value. Cool. Then for the select, value menu style. And then on the on change, we'll set the font. To font. And we'll set value. There we go. This will make our Zustand store work for all these. So test, centered, font, we'll set a color, and then we'll hit publish. And we can see now our Zustand store has all these values because we're publishing what is in the Zustand store. Now let's work on building our menu content builder. So let's go to our core, menu content, and we're gonna have the same structure as menu style. So we can just copy and paste that from here. And we can delete this menu style. And see how this works. So cool, we got it centered. And now let's go down to core and create a new folder for our menu content. And in here, we're gonna make a component called menu builder. And this will be the component to actually create the menu content. So this component will have a class name of width, 450 pixels, height. Oh, I typed that wrong. This is actually gonna be a card component too. And this will be 650. Use the brackets. And we can delete this. And inside here we'll have a div. And it'll be a class name of flex column. And in here we'll have flex, justify between, let's see if this loads. Okay, we have to put the component in here. Cool, there we go. We got the component showing up. And let's continue working on it. So flex, justify between, and then in here, we're gonna have a card header. And this is gonna say build your mobile menu here. And a card description or a card title of, oh, we actually want to wrap our card title around build your mobile menu here. Yeah, the card title goes in the card header. And then below here we want a card description. And this can say sort your menu by dragging and dropping. Cool, so we got the title set up. And below here, we're gonna have a div of class name, margin right 10, margin top 6. And it'll have a button. And this will say publish. And size can be small. And make sure we import this from Shadcn UI. There we go. And now let's work on adding D&D kit. So that's going to allow us to do this drag and drop feature right here. So we'll go to the D&D kit docs, and we have to install D&D kit core. So I'll copy and paste that. Then I'll CD into my app. Cool. And we're also supposed to install React DOM. There we go. And we'll be using the sortable pretext. There's good documentation on here if you want to read it, but we also have to install this. And there we go. We got that installed. And this pretty much covers how we're going to do the drag and drop. And now let's go back into VS Code. And we're going to add a button right below here. And it's going to be a variant ghost. Size. Icon. Class name. Margin bottom. There we go. And this is going to be a plus icon. And below here, we're gonna have our card content. And then we'll style this div of class name border 1, rounded medium, flex call, padding 2, and we can see our icon there. And inside here, we're gonna have another div of class name height 480 px, overflow auto, flex call, gap 2, and then padding right 2. And in here, we're gonna use our D&D context from D&D kit. And we have to make sure this imports. Why is that not importing? And up here, I'm just going to add the import. So I'll copy and paste this from D&D kit core. And it looks like they resolved the issue. I don't know why it wasn't automatically importing. And then we're going to use sensors for this. So we're gonna have to define this sensor for our dragging and dropping. That's to be const sensors equals use sensors. And it looks like it completed automatically. And let's change this to 10, which just makes it a little harder to drag and drop. Less responsive. There we go. We also have a collision detection. And this will be closest center. And you can read more about these on the D&D kit documentation. But we also have an on drag end. And this will be handle drag end. There we go. And we'll have to define that later. And we'll have modifiers. And this will be restrict to vertical axis. And that will also be imported from D&D kit. There we go. And let's jump below here to define the function for our handle drag end. So this will just happen every time someone stops the drag event, and we'll have some logic here for sorting. So I'll have an active and over, an equal event, a const old index equals entries, find index, and then there's gonna be a new index found the same way. And let's just move this up here within the function actually, so we can eventually read in entries. And then if the old index is equal to the new index, we're just going to return. Otherwise, we're going to use this array move function to swap the places. And we can also import that from D&D kit. And it'll return a new array updated. And we're just going to set our entries to that new array. So let's import all of these. So up here, first let's actually define our entries. So we're going to use global store, and these are just going to be our menu entries. And set entries equals global store. State set menu entries. And then we also need the entries IDs for the drag and drop. So we're just going to take that from the entries by using this use memo hook. There we go. And we can also use this add menu entry from use global store. we gotta make sure this is imported eventually. Why isn't that automatically importing? We can actually just copy and paste in the imports like we do with the other ones. So I got this from the D&D kit documentation. And restrict to vertical axis didn't get imported properly. But already moved it. So let's see if the, oh yeah, there we go. We have to import this one too. And we also have to install D&D kit modifiers. I forgot to add this. But if you go down here, let's install this D&D kit modifiers. There we go. And that should fix the issues. And we also have to make this a use client component. There we go. We also still have to define everything for the dragging and dropping, but we got to compile. Now let's continue working on this dragging and dropping functionality. So in here, we're gonna have a sortable context, and we're gonna have pass in items, which is gonna be the entries IDs, and the strategy is gonna be vertical list sorting strategy. And make sure that's imported. And in here, we're gonna have entries that map, and we'll just edit this div. So it's just gonna be the entry names for now, and we'll surround it with a div. There we go. And we don't have anything in our store yet. So right here, you see how it's empty? This means we're not getting any things we can sort. So now let's create a new file in menu content. That's going to be a sortable item.tsx. And this is going to have an interface of sortable item props. And it's going to take an entry of type menu entry. And we'll deconstruct it here. And we're going to take const attributes, listeners, set node ref, and transform, transition, and is dragging. And we're going to get these from the use sortable hook, and we just have to pass an ID for it. There we go. And we'll also have a const style equal to z index is dragging 1 or 0, and then transform css dot transform to string, and then transition. There we go. And we have to fix this right here. I think it's because we're missing an import for CSS. So we have to import this CSS from D&D kit. Why isn't this showing up? There we go. Okay. And now we can change this div to a sortable item that we just created. And the key will be entry ID. And the entry will be entry. There we go. And we still don't have anything showing up because there's nothing in our Zustand store. But right now, let's create another file that's going to be the menu entry card.tsx. So we'll create that here. And this is going to take an interface of menu entry card props. And I'll have an entry of type menu entry. So let's import this. And we'll deconstruct this. And we'll use a card component. So I'll have class name, hover, shadow, medium. And then in here, we're gonna have a div. So there we go. I thought the Copilot helped for a second, but this is gonna be flex, justify between. And then we're gonna have a card header. And let's import this from Shadcn. And in here, we're gonna have a card title. And we can put the entry name there. And then below this, have a card description that is entry type. This will just be a placeholder for now. Cool, so I think that's everything we need for the card. So let's add it now to the drag and droppable list. So let's go into sortable item and replace this with our menu entry card. And we have to make sure this has the right props. So yeah, just pass in the entry. And let's add some temporary values to our store now, so we can see them showing up. And Copilot did a good job, but here we can see it. Let's add a couple more to see if we can drag and drop. And there we go. We can't drag and drop yet, but we'll fix that later. Now let's go create a new file called menu entry editor.tsx. And this component will allow us to edit the entry. And it's going to be a use client component. And in here, we have to have a state for whether it's open or not. And we should also have a button or a function that handles when the entry is published. And this is going to be from our Zustand store. And this will also take props of entry. And we just type it of any. We don't need to make an interface for it. And we're going to use a dialog component. And we have to pass in these to it. So make sure we import this from Shadcn UI from our components folder. And that has to say open. And we'll have a dialog trigger. Which will just be a button. And we'll set the variant to ghost. And the class name will have a M2. Import all of these. Now let's use a pencil icon for it. And below the trigger, let's have the dialog content. And it'll have a dialog title of edit menu entry. And in here, we can add our menu entry editor. And we can update to have an interface actually. And set to menu entry as the type. Okay, it looks like we imported the component wrong, maybe. So let's see. Yeah, so we have to make sure dialog content and dialog title are imported from Shadcn UI and not Radix UI. That should fix it. So delete this line. And there we go. Now when you open it, we're gonna have a dialog. Cool, so that's looking good. And now let's jump back into VS Code and create a new file in menu content. And this will be our menu entry form. So let's create this component. And this will have a schema from Zod. So we have to import Z from Zod. And we can use this to define a form schema so people put in the right information. There we go. And the first thing we're gonna have is a type of Z enum. And if you don't have Zod installed, you can just run a npm I Zod. It should already be installed though. Cool. So our type's gonna be item, header, or title. The name is gonna be of type string. And we'll have a min length of 1. So if someone doesn't put in a name, they'll get a message that name is required. And then for our description, we'll have a string of min length. We don't even need a min length for this one actually. And then we'll have a price, and this will also be, we have to course the number to a string. There we go. And price must be a positive number. And then we need to find an interface for this menu entry. So right here, it's going to take an entry of type menu entry. And we have to set it open. Or we're actually going to be able to close it from here. And we have to get this from our global store so we're able to update our entries. And also be able to delete our entries. And let's add our menu entry form to our menu entry editor. And we gotta pass these props through. And yeah, make sure we pass these through here. Cool. And make sure this is saved. That's all passing through. Now we can see the menu entry form is opening when we click it. We still have to add things to it, but we're making progress. And now let's add a cons for the form. So we'll use the use form hook, and we're going to use our Zustand schema for it. And this will take a resolver, Zod resolver, and then I'll take some default values. Cool. And the default values can just be from our entry. So description, and then price. And I think that's all the items we need. Let's close off that bracket. Then let's import form and Zolve resolver. Cool. And we're getting a couple type errors here. This should fix them though. Having a default item if there's nothing. And not assignable. This changes the Z string. And price, I think we can also just edit this to Z string. Cool. And description. Why is that? Oh, it looks like there's a typo here. There we go. So we got that fixed. And below this, let's create a function or a state and these will allow you to switch between an item or header or whatever description it is. And then below here, let's create a function for when you submit the form. And it'll take in values. And it will infer form schema. And we have to create an updated entry we want to add to it. And then we can call our update entry function. And then we can close the form. And this needs a parameter. There we go. And now let's create a function for deleting an entry. And this function will handle when someone switches tabs. So this will allow you to switch the type from item, header, or title. And now we can start working on the form. So let's import this form component, pass in our form. And we'll have a little form inside of it. And let's style this now with a space Y4. Let's close that tag. And cool, so we don't have anything in our form yet, so we don't see anything. But let's jump back into our form and start adding form fields. So we'll create a form field here. And I'll have a control, a form control, a name of type, and render. And this is how we actually create the field. So we have to render it. And we can pass in here what we want to render. So we want a form item. And in here we want a form label of type. And below that, let's have a form control. And this will be our tabs from Shadcn UI. And I'll have a default value of field.value. Let's also have an on value change of our function we defined of handle tab change. And these are going to be the items in our tab list. So let's add a tab trigger. And the first one's it can be an item. I'll copy and paste this. Or this one's going to be header. And this one's going to be title. And let's make sure this is closed properly. There we go. Is this not imported? Yeah, from UI form, we have to import form field. And there we go. I think we got our tab switcher here now. And we have an error. And let's go back into VS Code and fix it. And it's just because all these form elements have to be imported from Shadcn UI. I accidentally imported from React to form. So that should fix it. And this should also be a use client component. There we go. Now we can see our tab switcher. And now let's continue working on the rest of the form. So below this form item or form field, we'll have another form field. And we'll do something similar. We'll also have a form control. But this one's going to be of type name. And we'll add this render in. And there we go. There'll also be a form item. And the form label for this will be name. And the form control will just be an input. There we go. I have a placeholder of name. And the form description will be selected tab equals item. This is just so we can conditionally choose the description for the element, the name of the item or the name of the header. And make sure, oh, spelled selected wrong. And we'll just make these descriptions a little better. Cool. And then below here, make sure we have these brackets correct. What bracket is missing? There we go. I think we're just missing that closing tag. And there we go. We can see our first item in our form field. And it also looks good in dark mode. And now let's continue building out the form. So we're gonna have another form field, so I'll just copy and paste this. And this one's gonna be for our description. So I'll just change all these names to description. And this one we can change to this is your menu items description. This is because header and title won't have description. For now they both do, but we'll change that. And yeah, this has to be item for this to show up. Nice, there we go. And I'll copy and paste this again. And this is going to be for the price. So let's see how that looks. Cool, we got a price in there. And it only shows up for the item. And now we can continue this form. And below this, we're going to have a div. It's going to have class name flex, justify gap, or justify n gap 2, button, on click, and it's going to be the delete button. It's going to be a small size, and the variant's is going to be secondary. And make sure we import this from Shadcn. And we're going to use a trash icon for it. And below that button, we're going to have another button. And this is going to be our submit button. And this one will just say update. Cool, let's see if those show up. And there we go. That's looking good now. Now we can edit these fields, hit update, and they close out. And we can delete items. Now let's go fix the issue with the dragging and dropping. So if we go to our sortable item, we can add a use client to the top. And then we also have to pass in all those things from use sortable here, which I forgot to do initially. There we go. And now it should work. Now you can see how we can drag and drop it. And we can edit these items, change. Cool, and we can also see how we are changing the items. And now I'll say header there. So we're making progress on the content builder. Now let's go back into our menu builder and work on adding new entries. So for this on click, we can call our function add menu entry. So now when it's clicked, we can see how we get a new item we can sort. Nice. And we'll also create a function called handle publish, which will allow us to publish our menu. And for now, we're just going to console.log the entries. But eventually we'll publish that to Convex. There we go. Now to see publish, I'll inspect the log, see if we could publish that. There we go, it looks like it published. So now we can tell that we're updating our Zustand store properly. And let's now go to the Convex dev website. This will allow us to have a backend. And if you don't have an account, create one here with the login. And I already have one. So they have good documentation, but we're going to follow this Nextjs starter guide, and we're just going to install Convex. There we go. And then we can just run Convex dev. It creates a folder with our backend functions. And we can say create a new project, and we'll call it restaurant menu builder. And now our backend's ready to go. And you can see right in here, this is where it was created. And we're also going to be using Clerk, which will handle our authentication. And it just makes it way simpler. And yeah, following this guide should set it up for you. And this sometimes changes, so it's best just to follow this guide and not follow what I do here. And then we also want to use Convex and Clerk together. So there's another guide on Convex docs, and these walk you through everything, but you pretty much create a Convex client provider and then add it to your root layout. This code will probably change by the time you watch the tutorial, so it's best to follow the guide. And yeah, you can just see what I have here though, if you want to copy it. And yeah, it does a good job of walking you through. Now let's go back into VS Code, and we can start creating our Convex functions. So let's create a new folder in this Convex folder called functions.ts. And in here we're going to create them. So first we have a function called export const publish equals mutation. And I'll take args of the URL slug, which will be a string, menu content, which will be a string, or actually it'll be any, because it'll be a list. And then menu style, which will be any. And we'll have a handler that will take in the CTX parameter and all our arguments. And in here, we got this type error. We got to make sure they're being passed in correctly. There shouldn't be a type error. Oh, I think because we didn't import mutation yet. There we go. And then let's import this. Or let's first actually change this. We need to get an identity. And this will be our from clerk. But we can use it in our convex functions to make sure someone's logged in before they're allowed to call them. If they're not authenticated or if they're not. Then we're going to query our database, which will be called menu table. And we want to find the menu where the URL slug equals ours, or the user ID equals ours. That's a better thing to use than a slug. There we go. And then the ID is going to be the doc ID. And let's check if it's undefined. Because then we're going to have to insert a completely new one into our menu table. There we go. I think that looks good. Just checking over everything. Yeah, so then here we'll just return, we'll break early. And otherwise, so if the thing's already in our table, we'll just update the menu in our table. We don't have to add a new one, so we'll use this patch command. And let's fix this. It looked a little off. Yeah, we want to patch by the ID. And then our menu content, menu style, and our slug. And it looks like that function compiled. Now let's continue with our query function, and this will be the function used to get our menu. So this will have a handler, and make sure that's imported. So we have to load the user identity. Yeah, then we'll load it by the menu table. And return the doc. Cool. And we also have the get menu for the customer. The previous one, you had to be authenticated. This one's just going to allow you to get it as a customer based on the URL slug. There we go. And now we can actually work on using those functions. So let's go to our menu builder. And we do const publish equals use mutation from Convex. And we use API functions dot publish, which is the name of our function. And we also have to have our menu style in here because we want to publish both of them. So let's get that from the global store too. And then in our handle publish function, this has to be async too, but we can use this convex function now. There we go. Passed everything in. Now let's test by hitting publish. And we can then look in our table and we can see that our menu was published properly. The data was added. And now let's continue to do the same thing for the menu style. So let's go to menu style. And we're also going to use this publish function from Convex. There we go. And instead of this login now, we can use this publish function. It also has to be async. This is just going to be the same as the menu builder one too, if you want to copy and paste it. I'll just type it out though. Oh, we have to import menu style here too, or menu entries from our global store. There we go. And now let's change a color and hit publish. And we can check. And it looks like there might be an issue just because it's publishing extra entries. So we'll fix that soon. So let's go back into our convex functions. Then let's add an underline for this ID in the publish. This should fix the issue. So I'll just remove these now. And hit publish. There we go. We can now change it. Hit publish again. And we can see it updated in place this time. So that's working now. And now let's work on adding our menu preview component. So let's go to core and we're gonna make a new file here called menupreview.tsx. And I'll create that. And in here, we're gonna load our menu style and our menu entries. And this is gonna be a card component and it'll be styled with a class name, height, 650 pixels, it's missing the brackets, then a width of 400 pixels, and a padding of 2. And let's make sure we import this card. Then I'll have a card header. And in this card header, we'll have a card title that says mobile menu preview. And below the card header, let's have a div that has max height 570 pixels and then overflow auto. And this will say menu wrap. And here we'll have a new component. So we'll just put temp now. And in core, we can then display this menu preview next to our menu builder. And we do that for both. This will allow us to see our menu while we're developing it. See how that looks. Oh, it looks like we need, yeah, this has to be a use client component. There we go, save that. Cool, now we see it's showing up. And we have to add it for both. So let's go to our menu builder or menu styler. Oh, it's just not saved here. Menu preview. Menu content. Oh, there, now it's showing up. I think it just didn't refresh yet. So now let's go to our, let's make a new folder. We're gonna make the menus now. And this will be called modern.tsx, which will be our first menu template. And it's gonna take an interface. And we'll call this modern template props. And they'll take in menu entries and menu style. So I'll pass those in. And we're gonna use style for these instead of class name, so we can pass in our menu style. And background color is gonna be menu style dot background color. And this will also have a class name of flex call, gap, oh, accidentally, gap 4, padding 6, and in here we'll map over our menu entries. So, oh wait, there we go. And the brackets get kind of funky with all this stuff. So if entry type equals title, where is the bracket? I'm just gonna try to fix the brackets first. And, oh, there we go. We're just missing one below this hello. And now we can conditionally choose what to render. So if it's a title, we'll just do our conditional logic first. If it's a header, or if it's an item. And now in each of these, we can return. For now, let's do a temporary hello, just to make sure we have this set up correctly, so we don't get any errors. What's the error here? Oh, there we go. I had an extra. The wrong type. So that's set up. Now we can work on actually styling these elements. So this first one is going to be an H1 with class name text, 4XL, medium text, 6XL, text center, padding bottom 4. And style is going to be color, that menu style. So yeah, there we go. And then font, family is going to be menu style.font. And here's going to be our entry name. And for the header, we're going to use a div. So let's style this class. First we need the style, background, color, menu style, dot, highlight color. Yeah, we use a highlight color here. And then class name is going to be padding bottom 2, rounded small. And then in here we're going to have an H2 of class name text 2XL, medium text 4XL, padding bottom 2. And the style is going to be color, menu style dot text color. And the font family is going to be menu style dot font. And this will be the entry name. And finally, for our menu item, we're going to have a div. It's going to be class name flex, flex call, and we'll have a div in here, class name flex, justify between, padding bottom 2. And then we'll have a p tag inside of style, color, menu style, text color. And then font, menu style, dot font. Oh, I didn't put a dot here, I put a colon. There we go. And in there we'll have the entry name. And we'll use the same style for this other p tag. And this will be the entry price. Now let's copy this one more time. And below this, we'll have our entry description. There we go. That's not showing up yet because we haven't added it. Now let's make this menu wrapper component that'll allow us to do it. So let's go into menus, menu wrapper. Okay. And this is going to take an interface of menu wrapper props. And it'll just be the menu entries and menu style. And we can just type those as any. So if the menu style.template equals modern, we're then gonna render our modern template. This is pretty much just for conditionally choosing what template to render. There we go. And we have a bracket issue. Oh, it's expecting a to have a null after, I think. So that can be end-to-end to fix it. And I think that's good. So now let's go back in and add our menu wrapper to our menu preview. So let's change out this temp. And now we got our menu preview. And we'll pass in the entries and the menu style. So, okay, save all those, reload this. And now we actually have to load our data from Convex so we can get to show up. So let's go to layout. And in here, we're actually going to load our data. So this will be const menu, use, query, API, functions, dot menu. And then const set menu entries. And then const set all menu styles. And then in here, we're going to have a use effect. And we'll check if menu. Then we'll set menu entries and set the menu style. Cool. So, and we also have to update it when menu changes. So let's see if that works. And we're getting this error. I think I know what it is. We actually have to set this to menu content. That's what it's called. And this is menu style. And that should fix it. There we go. And so it looks like it's working. Now let's switch our template to modern, because this one we have rendered, and we can see it showing up in the preview. And then if we hit publish, we can refresh the page and it'll show up again. So it looks like Convex and our menu preview are working. Now let's go back in and fix an issue with our font. I think, yeah, for our item we said font instead of font family. So this will get the font to work. Okay, and it looks like the fonts on the other ones are set correctly. So go back. And now you can see we can update the fonts properly. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll change the colors so you can. And we'll just set this to blue so it looks a little better. And this can also be a blue. And we can edit these, update those to headers. There we go. Looks like there's a little issue with our header, but we can fix that. So let's go to our modern template and then change this PB just to P. And that should make our header look better. There we go. And so yeah, now let's add some menu content so we can see how our menu is gonna look. So I generated a fake menu with ChatGPT and I'm just gonna type it in here. I'll just copy and paste each item in. You can choose whatever you want to put as your menu. Make this a little shorter so it looks better. There we go. Yeah, I just told ChatGPT to generate a ocean theme menu. And the header can be appetizers. Yeah, I'm just gonna copy and paste in each item. So seafoam soup. And that's the description and price. And we can see our menu's already looking pretty good. Add in another item. And we're not going to build a full menu, just probably like maybe one more section, just so we can have a good thing we can edit. And this will be our main course section. And we'll just add a few to this one too, and then we'll call it good. There we go, 2 more. Nice, okay. There's just one more item now. Paste this in. Cool, so there we go. We got a little menu we can preview. And now we can continue creating the menu page. So this is what the customer is going to see. So let's create a new folder. It'll be menu/slug. And this is a dynamic route, so we can read in the slug path. And we'll create a page.tsx. And let's pass in the params, which will be our URL slug. That's going to be a string. And let's load our menu using this slug. Okay, that loads the menu. And we also have to load our menu style, or create it just from that menu field. Okay, there we go. So that's if menu's null, we just return div. And otherwise, we return a menu wrapper, which conditionally renders the menu we want. Pass in our props. Menu style, so let's create a URL slug as test. And we can then go to menu/test. And this also has to be a client component, it looks like. Maybe it didn't load. Test. Yeah, so let's mark this as use client. And we're also getting this error about mapping over entries. And I think this can be fixed by changing this to content. There we go. That should work. Yep, we have our menu showing up. Now let's go back and we're gonna fix our nav bar so the view menu button works. So let's go into VS Code. And yeah, for the view menu button, let's have a on click. And this will window open our URL. And we'll pass in blank here, which will open it in a new window. There we go. And do we have, we can also change our temp button to the user button now from Clerk. So this will allow the user to log out and manage their account. So now our nav bar is looking good. We have our view menu button. Oh, we missed a slash. So view menu works now. We see our menu. And it just opens in a new tab each time. And we also have our Clerk button. And now let's go and create our other menu template. So this is going to be called centered. And this menu template will just look a little different. So it's gonna have similar props. And modern. And yeah, we'll pass in the entries, the menu style. And let's deconstruct it. Oh, we should call this centered template. My bad. Centered. And this will have a style, background color, menu style, background color. And the class name's gonna be flex call, gap 4, and then padding 6. And in here, we're gonna map through our menu entries. There we go. And now let's fix these brackets. Where's if entry type equals title, return H1, and this will just be a temp while we fix the structure. Why? I think it's just a stupid mistake missing a bracket somewhere. Oh, there we go. Okay. Then we'll do else if the entry type is a header. We'll return another temp for now. And then else if it's an item, we'll also return another temp. And now we can go through and first make this title. So it's gonna be H1, class name, text 4XL, medium, text 6XL, text center, padding bottom 4, and we'll have a style of color, menu style, text color. And the font family of menu style font. And in here we're gonna have the entry name. And down here we're gonna have H2 for the header. Actually, we'll wrap this in a div because we want to style the background. So style, background, color, menu style dot highlight color, and then class name padding 2, rounded small, text center, and in here we're gonna have H2 of class name text 2XL, medium text 4XL, padding bottom 2, and then style color menu style dot text color, and then font family menu style dot font. And we'll have our entry name in there. And below this, we're gonna have a div with class name flex call, and then p tag of class name flex call, actually we don't, it's just gonna be text center style equals color menu style dot text color, and then font family is going to be menu style font. And there we go. Let's put in our entry name. And then we're just going to add the price right after it with a space. Cool. And then below this, we're just gonna have another p tag of class name text center style color menu style dot text color, and then font family menu style dot font. There we go. And in here is going to be the description. Save that. And I think that's everything for our center template. Okay, so I think we have to set the center template in our wrapper. So in our menu wrapper, let's change this to a question mark. And then otherwise, if menu style, that menu template is centered, render the center template. And otherwise, we can just render null. Let's fix that. Why didn't that suggest? Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, let's have a div actually, so it compiles. And then let's import our center template. Modern, now we have to reload. Now we can switch between the centered and modern template, which have a little bit of a difference. And we can publish the center template and then view it. So it just looks a little different. Cool. And now finally, let's add a toast so we can see when we successfully publish our menu. So it's gonna look like that in the corner. And so we have to add this toaster to our layout. Just go to layout, toaster. And then this gives a good description of how it's used. But yeah, pretty much we need this. Just looking through this documentation, making sure. And cool. So now let's go to a page where we're going to show it, which is going to be when this publish is clicked, we're then going to load the toaster. So first we have to have a hook to use the toast. There we go. And this looks good. We can just use the suggestion. So that should load a toast now. Let's check if this works. Menu style, did I load it? Maybe I have to refresh. There we go. Now we can see in the bottom corner our toast shows up. And let's add it for the content published now too. So let's copy and paste this into our menu builder. This is menu style. So up here. So yeah, right below the handle publish. And this is going to be const toast equals use toast. Let's import this. And now let's publish the content, and we see it works in the lower corner. Hit publish again, a new toast shows up, and it changes. So yeah, that's the end of the tutorial. Thanks for following along. And if you've had any issues with the source code, it can be gone from the description. So